Forced adversity.
The Eternals comes out next weekend, has been getting review bombed by, the usual suspects. They've done it over and over now. It's just old shit at this point. They did it for Captain Marvel. Well, they did it for The Last Jedi. They did it for Captain Marvel. They did it for Black Panther. And a few of those, like Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb, have actually changed how they do user ratings and stuff because of this, because of these, people that feel like they have a right to try to sway public opinion. I don't know. They're trying to cancel the movie, I guess. They're, cancel culture from the right. I don't know what their logic is. I don't think there's really any logic to it. It's just, we don't like this thing. Let's, make people think it's bad. Kumail Nanjiani? Kumail Nanjiani? Fuck. I realize I never said that out loud before, so I'm like, how do I say that?
Racist.
He had tweeted this the other day and then deleted it pretty shortly after. He said, looks like we're upsetting the right people. This is in response to an MCU Direct article about the movie being review bombed on IMDb, receiving hundreds of one-star reviews from users criticizing the movie's LGBTQ plus representation, despite not having seen the movie. So this is what logical big boys do with their spare time. I guess is like, there's any hint about anything that's not centered on straight white men, and that immediately becomes woke, and now we have to attack it and lie about it, because that's essentially what each one of these one-star reviews is a lie and an attempt at canceling, because they haven't seen the movie and they're judging it based on, me and my friend Judo were just talking about earlier, the difference between marketing and the media coverage of something like this, because I don't feel like the marketing of the movie has really leaned into the wokeness factor, right? It just shows the movie. Here's scenes from the movie. Whatever you may think about that, it's just showing that. It's not like they're showing the two gay characters, making out or anything like that. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not like it's saying, look at all the brown people in our movie. They're not doing that. It's just showing the movie. But then you have the media, certain, on all sides of this political spectrum, writing about how it's it's diverse. It's the most diverse movie. It's got all this representation and everything. And then that becomes, to certain people, that's somehow Marvel is pushing that. Yeah, not a single hint of it from the advertisements. I haven't seen anything that's like, the Eternals has gay dudes and some brown people. We're so diverse. But that's what Chuds act like. They act like it's just that's how Marvel is presenting the movie, and it's really speaks a lot more to how they see things than anything. When I think about the Eternals movie, yeah, that stuff is in the back of my mind, sure, because it's impossible not to realize that this is kind of a distinct Marvel movie for that reason. But when it's yeah, like how the Chuds thought when Venom was gay, and then suddenly he wasn't, and they're like, oh, this movie's so good, this is what a good movie is. But yeah, so yeah, the diversity is in my mind when I think about it, but the first thing I'm thinking about is the lore. And we just did a video, like I said, on Crack-a-Boom, formerly Anomic Comics, about 3 different Eternals runs, trying to decide, which ones were best for new readers and which ones the movie might draw from, and so on. And so that's what I think about, is like, I hope that it does service to the story, in lore, and that the characters are fully realized and stuff like that. And it's so it says a lot to me about anybody who's just fixating on the diversity of it. It says, for one thing, that they're probably not really fans of the Eternals. And to be honest, who is? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like the Eternals were one of Marvel's big properties. They're pushing them now in the same way that they did Guardians of the Galaxy, but and I hope that it does take off. I hope it becomes just as an important part of the MCU and comics too as anything else. But up until now, it's, the Eternals has had spotty runs here and there. Spotty runs, that sounds gross. The Eternals, 60% on the tomato meter, which is, I think, the lowest MCU film. I'm pretty sure Incredible Hulk was like 70 or something like that. That was the lowest one, maybe Dark World, but this is definitely lower than those. And we're probably not going to see any of that stuff right there. Let's see where the, how do you find the audience scores? 0 ratings. I guess they just removed them completely. Wow. I mean, that's the way it should be, right? Like, there shouldn't be any audience scores before the audience sees the fucking movie. There are just a few days left until the epic Marvel movie directed by Oscar winner Chloe Zhao is released, introducing fans to the immortal alien race who have been living on Earth in secret for thousands of years. The story features the MCU's first openly gay superhero, Phastos, who is played by Brian Tyree Henry. Despite it not yet being out for general release, it's been reported that IMDb was flooded with negative reviews and with the intention of bringing its rating down. According to the Direct, there were more than 400 one-star reviews. 400. Okay. I wonder if it's possible. It has to be. It has to be possible to find where this campaign was started, right? There's got to be, is it Geeks and Gamers? I'm just speculating, but there's got to be some YouTuber or streamer or something like that that encouraged their audience to do this. Like, this shit doesn't just happen in a vacuum where a bunch of people, 400 people, decide they're going to lie about a movie they haven't and say they've seen it when they haven't. It's not the first time a film has been targeted by negative reviews before audiences have even had a chance to watch it. When Captain Marvel came out in 2019, starring Brie Larson, it was claimed that it had been inundated by negative comments on Rotten Tomatoes ahead of its release, with trolls criticizing the actor's feminist beliefs and the movie's perceived promotion of feminism. Earlier this week, the stars of Eternals arrived in London. Angelina Jolie opened up about how proud she feels to show her daughters that they can be feminine and imperfect through her character, Thena. What I was happy to show my daughters is that being a strong woman also means being... She said strong woman. That means that's a Chud trigger word right there. Strong woman, make me mad. But yeah, so, it brings up several questions too, is like looking at the reviews here. If it's 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, what does that mean? What do you guys see as the relevance of a critic score? Yeah, because it's weird. I see certain people taking critic scores. It depends on if they have an axe to grind or something, especially. But and that's how these Chuds operate. Is like, if they show that there's a low critic or low audience score, that somehow proves something. When off the top of my head, there's several movies that when they first came out had low critic scores and ratings, like Blade Runner. First Blade Runner was not well received when it came out. And yet it went on to become, one of the most iconic and influential sci-fi films ever. So, what does that say? Hey, what's up, Judah? Good point, dude. Critics do resent franchises, that's for sure. Do you want to hop on here, Judah? Yeah, The Empire Strikes Back was initially trashed by critics and fans. Yep. Hey, this is we got Judah Rad from I Freaking Love Comics hopping on with us.
Today I'm Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda, got you. See, I almost put on my Doctor Doom mask, but that shit is like genuinely metal and it's really hard to wear.
But yeah. How do you think he feels,
I know. I know why he's so angry all the time. When I wear that thing, I'm like, I get it, Victor. I get it.
Apparently he sleeps in that thing.
Yikes.
Eternals, right?
Yep, Eternals. Talking about the review bombing and and generally just like what do critics and audience scores mean to you? Like, how do you take these when you see an audience score, let's say on a movie that you're anticipating and you're like looking forward to it, and the audience score is kind of low or the critic score is kind of low. What do you do with that information?
There's so many factors and it's a little bit hard. It's a lot to explain. Like, if it's an action movie that has not gotten a lot of attention, like Taken was, and it has anything better than a 50%, I assume it's really good, because action movies have to struggle to win over critics. If it's a drama and it has below 70%, I assume it's not that good, because dramas, that's like their bread and butter. You know what I mean? For a franchise superhero movie that has like some dumbass controversy surrounding it, I don't really read much into the audience score at all. And I take the critics score with a big grain of salt because, as you know, they despise franchises. So that's my answer.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, it always weird to me whenever somebody's like, oh, the critics are trashing that movie or whatever. And it's like, well, what do what's your implication with that? You know what I mean? When somebody says that, I'm like, are you just implying that, does that affect your judgment? Not you, but I mean, generally, is that affecting people's judgment? Because personally, I think that, especially an aggregate of scores, you don't know who any of these people are or what their tastes are for the most part. You know what I mean? And like I said, a lot of people hate franchises and hate superhero films and hate horror films. So like, for me, what I try to do with reviews is find a handful of people that I learn to, I learn their tastes over time, and more or less either align with mine, or if they don't agree with me on things, I at least understand where they're coming from, right?
Yeah.
And then those are the kind of reviews I tend to look for, and I don't use aggregate scores at all, really. I think it's pretty arbitrary, especially the way they've been weaponized. So
super arbitrary. Yeah. I don't know. Do people even look up Rotten Tomatoes anymore? Like, is that a thing still? I feel like it's like a relic from a time when people read the reviews in the paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't really anymore. I mean, the only times I've talked about them in like videos is whenever I was trying to kind of mock the idea of objective film criticism. Which is something that I don't know if you've seen, but there's YouTube channels dedicated to, trying to convince people that they are judging things objectively, as if they're standing outside of reality or something. And it's like, it's a movie,
It's impossible.
It's impossible. We're all informed by our experiences that we've had, right? So like, if you've seen a handful of movies that make you feel a certain way towards this thing you're watching now, that might be different from what somebody else is seeing. So the implication there is, if you haven't experienced all the stuff I've experienced, and you think this is good when I say it's bad, well, you're just wrong, and that's pretty fucking silly to me. But
you can make objective statements about the film that aren't necessarily quality judgments. Like, you can say, "Oh, hey,
it's a little movie perp here. How's it going, man?"
Good. How are you guys doing? How's my mic? Is it working good?
Sounds really good.
All right.
Very
All right. Sorry, my SJW awareness was alerted. I heard something about homophobia, and I rushed right in. So what's going on, guys?
he slid down the SJW pole and.
Oh, okay. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, we were talking about I'd be cool to get your take on this too. Talking about the relevance, if any, of critic reviews, even audience scores, when it comes to films and stuff like that. But Judah was saying something. So what were you saying?
Yeah, finish it off.
You can make nothing's truly objective, but you can make somewhat objective claims about a movie. You can say, well, the plot threads that were introduced in the first half were not resolved in the second half. And you can say that without really attributing any quality to it, as just an observation. And people can make a judgment on whether that sounds like the movie for them based on that. But saying things like it sucks or it's derivative or whatever, making a solid quality judgment, it can pretty much go in one Yoda ear and out the other. I will say this. If Dane tells me something's good, that means a lot more to me than if some rando on Rotten Tomatoes says something's good or bad. Because you understand, like, if you know someone and you know what they like and that it's often the same things you like, that just carries a lot more water because of how subjective all this shit really is. So.
Yeah. I have a couple of critics I follow. They don't. I like to look at stuff from. Like it's more about like perspective in a way. So for example, I love this YouTube reviewer, YMS, Your Movie Sucks. He does some awesome reviews. He is not a fan of comic book movies, for example. So I know that if he gives something like, I think it was Into the Spider-Verse or even Spider-Man Homecoming, a 6 out of 10, I know I'm going to love it, and
right.
And that sort of, I usually go by that. I usually like to get a person's perspective of the type of film they like, or a critic, and then I go from there, and he, if he doesn't like rate a lot of high action movies, but he would give Mad Max a 7 out of 10. So it's a masterpiece, in action, just based on going above his meme is everything's a 6 out of 10 if it's really good.
So he's just hard to please. He hasn't met a film that he considers like a perfect movie yet.
Yeah. Yeah, actually there is, but he likes the more experimental or quote unquote artsy fartsy type. Like 10 out of 10 movies are like Holy Mountain. A couple of the Charlie Kaufman movies. He loves Charlie Kaufman, the writer. So,
Does a good review ever discourage you? Like if the critics give it like a 95% aggregate, does that ever make you think like, I don't know if I'm in the mood for this?
Yeah, not exactly that, but I could tell you that, all the last couple Marvel movies have been like 92%, and you're just like, okay, I'll get to them when I get to them. But now with the Eternals having kind of a mixed thing, it has me more excited for it. It has like, okay, let's see what's going on with this.
It does that for me with horror movies. Like if a horror movie scores too high, I start to wonder, like, is this going to be the stupid entertainment that I want? Or is this going to be some kind of highbrow thing that I need to pay attention to? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like a horror movie for me, a passable tomato meter is 60%. It's going to be great.
That's
if it's 60%
a solid,
or higher.
That is a solid movie. Yeah. 60% horror.
Well,
sure.
yeah, I mean the divisive reaction to the Eternals, not even including the dishonest Chud stuff, but there's like, people that have actually seen the movie are having some of them having not strong reactions to it. It kind of tells me that they must be doing something unique, right? Like something that they're taking some kind of chances or something like that, which is whether it works out or not. I think that anybody that appreciates art and like the progression of art as a medium should at least appreciate the fact that they tried to take a swing or two. You know what I mean? I mean, it's really showing with the Eternals, especially how there is no winning with the MCU with some people. There people like to complain about it being formulaic. Things are always the same. There's always, that just centered on white heroes and stuff like that. And now as they start to branch off and broaden into, other stuff, and they get someone like Chloe Zhao, who's, I've seen Nomadland. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's fucking amazing. And taking her approach to it, which apparently is kind of different from your typical superhero fare, and yet people are like, it's kind of, I don't know. I just think there's no when people take shots at the king, and MCU is the king right now, so it's going to get shots from every side, I feel like. But
absolutely. And the form, I mean, I guess I'm only speaking for myself, but one of the things I love about that whole genre is that there are certain things I can count on. Like there's certain reliable, like mama's chicken soup type comfort food in there that I can just rely on. I know the good guys are going to beat the shit out of the bad guys. Like I know it's going to happen, and that's what I'm there for, but I could see how a lot of critics, like, they don't want things to be derivative, and fans of a franchise do sort of want a level of derivativeness. So I could see how the desires don't align with
it's a fine line to walk for sure.